start this video, I would like to travel back to Izzy a few months ago, summer during quarantine. I obviously was out of school, so things were getting pretty boring, and what did I decide to do with my time? Binge watch shows like everyone else. I was particularly obsessed with the show at the time called Outlander, and if you haven't watched this show, you should definitely watch it because it's one of the best shows I've ever watched. Anyway, this very bored version of Izzy thought to herself, I really like the clothes in Outlander. I should try and make those clothes. I bet that would take up a lot of time. And what else am I gonna do? Nothing. Zilch. So I went to my mom one day and I was like, Mom, I've made a pattern for a dress, so can we go to Joann's and can we get some fabric because I want to make the dress? And she's a good mom, so she said, sure Izzy, let's go to Joann's. So I got my fabric and I didn't have a sewing machine, so I just went to good old Google and typed in hand sewing techniques. And I just figured it out. Now, little did this past version of Izzy know, this would spark a love of sewing and researching history and historical clothes and making old-fashioned clothes and researching more and basically playing glorified adult dress-up. Now, a lot of the knowledge I've acquired over these past few months has come from YouTube videos, and I thought, I found these really helpful and I can totally make them. So here I am, making glorified dress-up clothes for the world to see. But let's get into what I'm going to be making in the next few videos. So right now, I love a period of fashion history that took place from about the year 1790 to 1825, and this is known as the Regency Era. According to Wikipedia, the Regency period in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland was a period at the end of the Georgian era, when King George III was deemed unfit to rule, and due to his illness, his son ruled in his proxy as regent. In America, this time goes by many different names, like westward expansion, the Revolutionary period, or the Age of Jackson, but at this point America was kind of a mess, so there's no name that fully encompasses everything, as well as the Regency era of England, and English people kind of think they're the best anyway, and so why wouldn't we use their names of what's happening in Britain to distinguish time periods of the world, because according to them, their island is literally like the most important place ever, and it's kind of tiny. Anyway, I only really focus on women's fashions because I don't make myself old-fashioned men's clothes because I'm a girl, but I have thought that that could be an interesting project, so maybe one day I will. You never know. The fashions of the Regency era changed drastically and suddenly from the time period before. And this time period is known for the Empire waistline. So fashions of this period tried to mimic an ancient Grecian look of lightweight cottons and flowing gowns, with boobies hoisted up as far as they could go. I really like the look of these dresses actually because they look very feminine and innocent and flowy and just really cute. Conveniently, they're also one of the easiest types of dresses to sew. But I didn't just want to make a dress, I wanted to make all of the underlayers that go with it, so I could have a full Regency outfit and learn about all of these clothes along the way. That brings me to the purpose of this video, which is to give a quick rundown of what I'm going to be making in my following videos, so that those videos actually make sense. Ready? Okay. The first layer, worn during the Regency era and many previous eras, was called a chemise or a shift. It looks like a nightgown and it was often worn to bed. This went under all other clothes, and women often had many of them and washed them very frequently because they absorbed all the fun stuff like sweat and, BO. But they were often made out of cotton or linen, so they were great for absorbing all this, and wearing one of these protected all the more expensive outer layers from wear and tear, so you wouldn't barely have to wash them. And no, as far as everyone knows, women didn't really wear underwear during this time. So, but I would never do that because I think that's gross. After the shift came stockings, which were held into place with some sort of tie or buckle, either just above the knee or below the knee, depending on activities and preference. The next layer was a pair of stays, and this is similar to what is now known as a corset. During this time, stays became much softer and were corded for structure instead of using hard boning as was used in the time period before, the Georgian era. And the stays of this time focused on being basically a longer version of a push-up bra, trying to really give the bust an emphasized and rounded look. After the stays came the petticoat, and the purpose of a petticoat is simply to fill out the dress and disguise the lines of the stays. Now, petticoats during this time look a little different than we're used to because they had to sit right under the bust. So they were either like a long skirt with these weird suspender straps, or they were just a full underdress with a bodice attached. Last was the dress, obviously, and I mean, many different types, but it's a dress. And they also wore shoes because people didn't just decide not to wear shoes suddenly in the Regency era. Some common accessories were bonnets. Almost everyone wore bonnets, short jackets called spencers, long coats with an empire waist to match the dresses, and little bags to hold all your stuff, because in the Georgian era, women would wear pockets tied around their waist and could be accessed through slits in the skirt, but the empire waistline didn't really allow for that, and it would just look weird, I would think. So the solution was cute little bags, and I think it was a good solution. Now, with all of that out of the way, I can finally explain in my following videos how I went about sewing and making all of the things that a woman living in the Regency era would need. So stay tuned, and I'll see you next time for all kinds of sewing fun.